With that in mind, I often talk about destinations as not having one, or not,
Yes.
there isn't, or there aren't any. But when it comes to the human experience, for you, what is the purpose of this experience as a whole?
Now I try to be more present to what's happening right now, more so than looking towards the future or looking towards one final destination. Even though that's an easy sort of rabbit hole to go down. It's easy for us to live in the future, right? We can get caught up in planning. We can get caught up in daydreaming about what it looks like 5-10 years from now. And it's much harder to stay in the present. But I think that goes back to the idea of trust. It's if I have trust that my future will pan out in some way that gives me joy, then I can stay in the present because I'm not ruminating about the future. I'm not running 10 steps ahead of myself to ensure that future state is going to be there the way that I envision, right? I just have trust that it will be there in a way that makes me happy, in a way that supports me, so that I can be calm and centered and in the present because I'm not worried about the future. So that's kind of what it looks like for me these days. Again, that's a lot easier said than done, of course. And it's a practice, right, to stay present and come back to yourself. And again, if I do get caught up in that cycle of thinking, oh, this is the destination that I'm constantly thinking about, it's okay. I will just pause and acknowledge that. I think the power rests in being aware that you have sort of trailed off and are now in this future space. So it's also a good practice of forgiveness and just being compassionate to yourself, because we're all human and we all are trying to kind of move ourselves forward on the path of life. I think that's very normal and common, and nothing that I want to beat myself up over. That also gives me a lot of sort of peace and presence, is that I'm just not punishing myself for, thinking ahead or being anxious some days. It's all part of being human. If I can develop a good sense of trust that whatever destination I'm meant to achieve or reach will be great for me, and that there'll be more along that road to experience, then I can be content with where I am because I don't have anything that I need to necessarily chase after.
This idea of freedom, because it sounds very much the way you speak, that you're already living whatever we call freedom, liberation. That's what it sounds to me. But then when you mention the word practice, then in a way contradicts this idea of freedom. Or it is a paradox, right, Alexandra? We are free but not free at the same time.
I love that. That's actually really, I've never thought of it that way. So it's really interesting. And I'm glad you bring it up. To me, freedom is the ability to be yourself, to explore what you want to explore, to bring yourself more joy, the freedom to just being free in like a sense of peace of mind. But for me, when I think of practice, it is a little bit of a paradox, but I like to live my life in this way. And I'll tell you why, because I can have this sort of sense of freedom, but then on the other side, I know that there is a practice to this. What I've learned in my life is that if I want freedom, I'm going to have to put in some steps to not just work for the freedom, but to observe and notice all the ways in which I keep myself from that freedom. So that is a practice in and of itself. I have to look for ways in my life where I keep myself imprisoned. And then the practice is to extract myself from that, whether it's from limiting beliefs or fears or certain actions that I do on a daily basis that keep me from that freedom. So it is a little bit of work, but it's not work that is draining. It's work that is sort of enlightening and bringing more awareness to what you do consciously or subconsciously.